What I'm talking about in this video is respecting the wolf within you in the context of betrayal. Nothing wrong with therapy, nothing wrong with spirituality, but some of it's going to a bit of an extreme where we are encouraging ourselves to deny our own experiences, to pretend that things that are hurtful aren't really that hurtful. And I'm just so past that. I'm just so evolved that betrayal doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Don't lie to yourself in order to preserve the relationship, or in order to preserve your opinion of the other person, or in order to preserve your own identity as this enlightened individual who's not affected by anything. So you can get my ebook, Awakening the Wild Woman, on Patreon at the moment for free. You don't have to join Patreon. I only created my Patreon yesterday, so pop over there. And it's going to help you to recognize some of your needs, recognize some of the parts of yourself that have been repressed, and to re-engage with that part of yourself. So you become a more well-rounded person who understands themselves better. In many ways, this world has become so over-intellectualized and over-therapized to the point of emotional castration, where you're not even allowed to feel certain emotions because it's either low vibration in the spiritual community, or in the therapized community, it's uncomfy for the other person to witness certain emotions from you. I have found that certain therapy speak and spiritual bypassing that is encouraged within certain groups encourages us to suppress our needs and boundaries, and it's not healthy. There's not a good thing. Some therapies discourage labeling actions as bad. In some forms of therapy, betrayal, let's say your partner cheats on you, betrayal is labeled a pseudo feeling because it's confronting. It's too confronting. It's too difficult for the other person to cope with having their own actions called out for what it was. A betrayal is a betrayal. If I stick my hand in a fire, my hand gets burned. Yeah, it's not a pseudo burn. If someone else grabs my hand and sticks it in a fire, that's a burn. It's not a pseudo burn. And emotional things are just the same. When someone betrays us, it is a real betrayal. When you've agreed with someone that you're in a committed partnership, and the other person, off they go and they decide to jump the fence, get it on with someone else, that is a betrayal. Not a pseudo betrayal. It's not a pseudo feeling. It's real. And it is wrong. And it's okay to say that something happened. In some ways, I think we have come full circle. We've got to the point where we want to be so enlightened, either spiritually or with all the therapy stuff. Nothing wrong with therapy, nothing wrong with spirituality, but some of it's going to a bit of an extreme where we are encouraging ourselves to deny our own experiences, to pretend that things that are hurtful aren't really that hurtful. And I'm just so past that. I'm just so evolved that betrayal doesn't affect me. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Don't lie to yourself in order to preserve the relationship, or in order to preserve your opinion of the other person, or in order to preserve your own identity as this enlightened individual who's not affected by anything. You are not a psychopath. Okay? A psychopath probably wouldn't care. I don't actually have anything against psychopaths, to be clear. They're born that way. They can't help the way their brain works. However, I'll still hold them accountable if a certain behavior is bad, but they are what they are. But I'm guessing you're not a psychopath, you're affected by things. Why are we pretending? So, certain types of therapy and certain spiritual practices encourage us not to label things as wrong, not to moralize, not to make judgments. And to an extent, I can agree with that. I know where they're coming from. But again, it goes to an extreme. When you have an actual case of betrayal, someone's betrayed your trust, it's betrayal. Call it what it is. Call a spade a spade. Why are we beating around the bush? It's either therapy bypassing or spiritual bypassing of a very real pain, a very real injury that has been caused. So, in a lot of these spiritual practices, anger is often seen as a low vibration emotion. Anger is just an emotion. I don't believe any emotion is high or low vibration. What the hell are you talking about? It's an emotion, it's information, it's telling you something, it's communicating something to you. When anger comes up, again, I'm talking about healthy anger. I'm not talking about entitlement anger, where you feel entitled to something from someone and they don't give it to you and fills you with narcissistic rage. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about healthy anger. It's born out of self respect, it is born out of sincere, pure, genuine love for yourself. The same way that when someone is really treats a friend badly, you feel angry. You should feel angry. It's natural. It is normal. Normal. It's normal and there's nothing wrong with it. Western culture does a lot of things right. And I was born in the West. I've lived in the West most of my life, not all of it. I have no shame around my culture, and I don't think anyone should be ashamed of their culture. But it also doesn't do some things right. It doesn't do such a great job of some things. And one of those is betrayal, betrayal of trust, abuse. This is something we do not handle well in the West. We don't like to talk about it. We don't like to label it. We like to turn a blind eye, pretend it was an accident. We call it a mistake. It's not a mistake. We're encouraged to forgive and let them back in. Not letting someone back into your life doesn't mean you're holding on to the anger. It means that you have standards, you have boundaries, and you have limitations on things that you are comfortable with accepting from other people. And you should have boundaries. If you say that you have boundaries, but violating those boundaries comes with no consequences, that person still has unlimited access to your time, your attention, your emotional labor. You don't have boundaries. You're just throwing suggestions out there, and maybe they'll follow them, maybe they won't. In the West, there's this emphasis on getting along with everyone at any expense, at any cost, even to your own detriment. It's like you can't ever be seen to be in a conflict with someone because that means there's something wrong with you for not smoothing it over immediately or acting like there's no problem when you both know there's a problem. Now, back to the betrayal, and there's lots of different ways people can betray you and ways that we can betray other people. One of them is cheating. That's one of the most obvious ones. In the context of cheating, a lot of the time it's called an accident or a mistake, as though you can trip and fall into shaboinking. Like that's we're trying to redefine the meaning of words. That's not a mistake. It's not an accident. We have to call it what it is. It was a choice. And calling it a mistake, calling it an accident, allows us to distance ourselves from our own decisions, from our own choices. So we don't have to take accountability for it and think, well, it was a mistake. Surely you're forgiving enough because it was just a mistake. I still love you. Betrayal is never an accident, it's a choice, and it is based on a hierarchy of values. If I gamble with $5, £5, you can pretty safely assume I don't really value that £5, or I'm delusional enough to think that I'm actually going to win the lottery. There's nothing wrong inherently, nothing wrong with gambling. It can be a bit of fun, bit of a rush, bit of a thrill. It's not my bag, but if that's you, live your life. Just don't let it get out of hand. But it's safe to assume when you gamble with the £5, you don't value that £5 very much. You value that little thrill that you get, the little high, the little rush, the little dopamine hit. What's going to happen? Oh, am I going to win? Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with a little dopamine here and there. But you value the rush more than the £5, yeah? I mean, you could argue that that's not the case, but your behavior says otherwise. So if I gamble with £5, it's safe to say I don't really value it. When I gamble with my relationship by cheating, by endless ongoing neglect, with emotional abuse, with creating drama, when I gamble with my relationship, it's safe to say I don't really value the relationship that much. Now, nothing is black and white, obviously. You could say that I do value the relationship a bit, but the point is, I don't value the relationship more than I value the rush, the hit of dopamine, the adrenaline that comes from cheating, from creating drama just to see what will happen. So if I gamble with my partner's trust, I am showing them, doesn't matter what you say, stop believing what people say. Stop believing what you say about yourself. Because half the time, it's wrong. Look at your actions, look at other people's actions. If I say that I value this relationship so much and yet I gamble with my partner's trust, it's safe for them to assume that I don't really value it that much. So, respecting the wolf within us is listening to those emotions, listening to that anger when it comes up. When someone is gambling with our trust, gambling with the relationship, but this doesn't have to be a romantic partner. It could be your uncle, it could be your auntie, it could be your neighbor, whoever, a friend. When someone's gambling with you, is that the kind of connection you really want to have? You can try talking to them about it. Go for it, by all means. Try talking to them about it very calmly, non accusatory, and just say, hey, this problem's coming up a few times now. I'm not really happy with this. What can we do to fix it? That's it. Stop working so hard. Stop doing other people's emotional labor for them. It just makes them lazy. It makes them lazy. It makes them entitled. And it puts them into this state where they feel like they can just get away with anything. You're so desperate for their connection and for their attention that you'll literally put up with any kind of treatment. Once someone knows that about you, they stop trying. Now, not everyone's like this. Some people will just appreciate you regardless. So, respecting the wolf within, getting back to the wild self, is getting in touch with these needs that we all have, these needs for basic respect. Our needs are our needs, and the need for emotional safety and trust within every relationship, every close relationship, that is a need. That should not be negotiable. It shouldn't be optional, an optional extra. We treat these types of relationships, these types of friendships, as though it's some kind of unicorn that is impossible to find. And like, oh, well, we're just so lucky if we find a relationship like that. And we are. I mean, you should treat it like a unicorn. You should treat these people like unicorns because they are in a lot of ways. Treat them like they're special. Never let go of them. Make sure they feel loved every day. But because it's so rare, we just tolerate whatever. We sort of put up with whatever we can get. And a lot of this disrespectful behavior has become so normalized in recent decades as lack of responsibility has become more popular. A lack of honor. When do you hear anyone talking about honor outside of Japan? No one talks about it. No one talks about honor anymore. 100 years ago, I'm just talking about the West here, like I'm not an expert on the history of every single country, all right? I can only talk from the context of my own experiences. But in the West, 100 years ago, everything was about honor. I'm not saying they got everything right. They didn't. Lots of things needed to be improved. But as we have improved some things in the West, many other things have become terribly degraded. And this is one of them, that sense of honor and justice. And honor really can be honoring your own feelings, honoring your own boundaries. If you want to live in a world where honor becomes important again, you have to live that life. You have to live the life that you want to live. You want honor to be important in your world. You can't control the other 8 billion people in the world. Things might continue to degrade until we blow ourselves up or something and we go extinct. That's probably what will happen. I don't know. Can't control other people. But we can control ourselves, and we can make our own experience on this planet more wholesome than it might be right now. Just a little bit every day can get just a little bit better. Slightly more meaningful conversations, slightly more trust within friendships and relationships, a little bit more play. Not just watching movies, but playing outside with the sticks in the mud, building a fire, seeing if you can find a leaf of every single shade of gold and red in the autumn. And it's that honors that inner wildness within us, that wants to be respected, that wants to give respect, that wants to connect and play and have their needs met. And the only way to do that is to know what your needs are. I'm going to do a video on that soon, but so you can get my ebook, Awakening the Wild Woman, on Patreon at the moment for free. You don't have to join Patreon. I only created my Patreon yesterday, so pop over there, download my ebook, and it's going to help you to recognize some of your needs, recognize some of the parts of yourself that have been repressed over time, and to re-engage with that part of yourself so you become a more well-rounded person who understands themselves better, understand the shadow. I have a video about that as well, so if you want to have a look. Anyway, it's 3 degrees out here. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, sorry. And it's about to snow, so I'm gonna go inside. I literally can't feel my fingers. Completely numb. They went numb about 15 minutes ago. I'll see you soon.